All right, everybody. Thank you for joining in to the CMAG Connection session for March 2026. Let's get started with a look at our agenda. So we're going to start things off with a safety minute. We're going to go over EPD 101 with our buddy Hank from our own ES&P here. We're going to talk about the PMCM Master Enabling Agreements. We'll have a connection corner with some discussion topics, and then we'll go over our training opportunities before we send you on your way on the weekend. So let's get started with Edward Villanueva on the Safety Minute.
Hey, everybody. So I just wanted to take a moment. Proper use of head protection. It sounds crazy, but here at the Chancellor's office, we went to hard hats with chin straps. One of the reasons for that, there was a claim from the OSIP where an electrician fell off of a 10-foot ladder. He and his body went one direction and the hard hat went another. And it isn't something that, I mean, when you think about it, it's not the worst thing ever, right, to have the hard hat. But if it doesn't stay with a chin strap, if it doesn't stay on your head, it cannot protect you regardless of where you are. But just with standard head protection, just make sure it's the right type of protection for the activity that you're involved with. Make sure it's being worn correctly. Sometimes you'll see people wear them backwards. I don't even really know if that's on purpose or not, but be aware of that. There is a front and there is a back. If it does have a chin strap, make sure it's fit well. It should be snug enough to stay on your head and not pop off. And make sure that the straps inside allow for 1 inch of clearance that in order to provide proper protection. And just another question: when was the last time you even looked at your hard hat? Did a lot of people don't know this, but hard hats have expiration dates, and generally it's anywhere from 2 to 5 years. So, and obviously, if you actually had any incidents of it falling off your, if it fell, you actually had protected you from some damage, it's really cheap to get another one and replace it. And trust me when I say this, you're worth it. You're worth more than the hard hat itself. But there was an interesting article there on the bottom. Anyone is welcome to visit. Safety and Health Magazine did this article, so I just kind of took some excerpts from it and just wanted to remind everyone that when you go out in the field, make sure you're wearing proper PPE and make sure your hard hat is the right one for you.
Well, Edward, thanks for that. I do know that I've seen a lot of hard hats in my time, and a big problem is a lot of times your laborers or foremen superintendents leave that hard hat on their dashboard, and it's sitting in the sun, not just during weekdays, but on the weekends. It's still sitting in the sun, and the sun, the UV damage can be extensive too. So do make sure you check your hard hats. The chin strap one, I know Tim Baresh got us to get all the hard hats with the chin straps, and I was a little apprehensive, but I really do feel more secure. And it really, a lot of other countries have chin straps. For whatever reason here, it wasn't adopted as hard, but it's safety first, right?
Yeah, Edward, I don't know if you just said this and maybe I wasn't paying attention, but a lot of our general contractors are now requiring the chin straps. So
it is a move that you're 100% correct. It is a move that the majority of our larger contractors are doing it. They don't always invoke it down to the trade partners, but you're starting to see it as a trend because, again, it makes sense. It's, I mean, you wouldn't walk around with shoes untied or without laces, right? So your feet can pop out of them. It doesn't. So why would you have a hard hat in the same way? And to Jeremy's point, I got to say, back in my day, that's how my kids always hear me. Projects, you would get onto a job. I don't know if you guys remember. For those of you who remember, you'd get onto a job and they'd give you a hard hat with like a sticker or something that memorialized the project that you're on. Well, and some people wanted to wear that to the next job, right? And then next thing you know, you're holding on to like Olympics 1984 hard hat, and it's 2020, and you got to say to yourself, that time to hang it up, man, right? Time to let that hard hat go. So it's interesting. I start to see, I don't see those anymore. You're starting to see people who, you have the sticker collectors, but what you're starting to see is each project is requiring their own stickers and decals. So, and maybe just start if you got another project or a big project, get a fresh hat and then start collecting the stickers.
Cool. I appreciate the safety topic there for today. So next on deck, we got Hank Kaplan. Hank, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, if I can find my unmute. Thanks,
Oh, there we go.
Jeremy. And if you wouldn't mind just driving through the slides for the time being, I'd deeply appreciate it. Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, folks, it's great to be here. It's awesome to see such a well-attended meeting. For those who don't know me, my name's Hank Kaplan. I'm the interim assistant director of our Energy, Sustainability, and Transportation unit here at the Chancellor's Office. And I work closely with Jeremy, primarily around this topic of EPDs and more broadly embodied carbon in construction materials. It may have been some time since this group has sort of shown a spotlight on this. It is something that I think Jeremy and my colleague Rachel Patterson, who I also work closely with, have been sort of covering this topic for some time. I'm stepping in to try to support and make sure our campuses and folks like yourselves are aware of what the requirements are. And ideally, as you'll see today, hopefully, try to streamline and support our not only compliance needs, but obviously our broader goals as the CSU and the state. So today I'm just going to kind of cover what our general conditions say at a high level about this topic, what the Buy Clean California requirements are as a friendly reminder, and then dive into a smart sheet solution that I'm hoping to get feedback on, input on, and really roll out to, again, try to streamline and support our requirements here in the state. Before I dive into, I just want to say I'm assuming there's a varied degree of maybe knowledge or expertise in this area. So if folks do have questions, feel free to raise your hand or just unmute as we go along. And I hope I can address them today or at least follow up after. Thanks, Jeremy. If you want to go ahead. Okay, great. So just as an EPD 101, I probably should have started with environmental product declarations. That's what we're talking about.
That's the acronym. Yep.
Sorry, we get caught up in alphabet soup here. I apologize. So
does everybody know what that is?
Yeah, maybe I'll toss it out to the crowd first. If anybody wants to volunteer, environmental product declaration, a quick definition as to what that means. All right, we could have queued Hotel California back up and we waited, but I'll just give a quick overview. Bueller. So again, these are a requirement that I'll dive into in the next slide, but essentially an environmental product declaration is the environmental nutrition info label that accompanies a construction material in this case. So how much carbon or greenhouse gases are associated with, let's say, a ton of steel rebar. That's what we're talking about here, and that's what the state of California is continuing to really hone in on in terms of requiring our projects to use and procure those lower carbon materials, and we're seeing that across a number of different regulatory landscapes. Again, I talk very fast, so if people have questions, please do chime in. To get back on track here, our general conditions do point out these state requirements and point to the actual laws and regulations that require our product submittals. All of our environmental requirement sections in our general conditions should have this section that points to what needs to be submitted and what law needs to be referenced for further information. We're obviously all here to answer questions too if it comes up and isn't explained perfectly well on the Buy Clean or in some cases CalGreen website. A friendly reminder that this does apply to all non-JOC delivery methods. So any project that we're doing in the CSU outside of JOC would need to procure these low carbon materials that have this EPD or carbon nutritional info label accompanying them. We do put that submittal and sort of compliance responsibility on our contractors and subcontractors who are actually producing these materials. And hopefully the tool that I'll walk through that we're developing will help streamline that process. If you want to proceed to the next slide, Jeremy.
Sure, you got it.
So just again, a friendly reminder on what exactly Buy Clean California, that's BCCA, requires of us as a state entity. Any of the covered materials that are listed on screen, they must have a facility-specific environmental product declaration that states that that specific facility's product is under a certain global warming potential limit. In layman's terms, it's just we need to have a ton of steel rebar that is below a certain carbon number, and that EPD will tell us that. The products that are regulated by ByClean are structural steel, including hot rolled sections, hollow structural sections, and steel plate, as well as that concrete reinforcing steel, flat glass, mineral wool board insulation. Those are all covered under ByClean and are really the focus of the topic today. So again, the materials with the global warming potential limits above what ByClean California states, and we can find those limits on their website, or that do not have a valid environmental product declaration, shall not be installed in any of our projects. And again, this is coming from state law. It's not just me and old Hank making that.
So just to add to that, those GWP limits, they're actually on almost all the submittals for all 4 of these. And if you don't have them, there's a problem. That's your problem right there. And think of this as cradle to grave, right? So not just the manufacturing of your steel, your rebar, your glass, or your insulation, but think of it all the way to grave, right? All the way to where it's installed in your new structure. So just think of it as a holistic. I think Hank, you said it the best. Is it's like when you look at a can of soda and you see how many calories that can of soda has in it, you probably want to have the diet instead. Like you want to really keep these in mind when you're designing. And that's actually even a better point, is that your design team should be aware of this as well.
Yeah, really good points, Jeremy. Yeah, thanks for chiming in with that. And I'll just say as well, the sort of limits that are set on these, the sort of like caloric limits, if you're going with the nutritional like analogy here, those are set at sort of an industry average of what these materials have. So most of the regulating entities, and generally from what I understand from my sort of outside purview, is that it's not terribly difficult to identify these materials that are below that industry average carbon intensity. It's just a matter of making sure we're submitting the right documentation to the right people, and that we're actually tracking this requirement so that we can be in compliance with the law. If anybody has any feedback to the contrary, I'm more than open to hearing it, though. If we can go to the next slide, I can talk through what we're trying to roll out here at the Chancellor's office to all the campuses and your project teams to hopefully make this a little bit more streamlined from previous attempts. So we're building out a new tool in Smartsheets, and it's been adapted from our previous EPD intake form that was essentially a cover letter that accompanied a contractor's submittal of an environmental product declaration. I understand, too, that before my time in this role, we were also using MetaBIM to try to track and report on these materials. The Smartsheet is hopefully trying to do that in a more user-friendly way and allow us to do a little bit more of the tracking at the system level of what are the materials going in, and ultimately what is like the impact to our climate goals when we're actually tracking all of these submittals. As outlined on the slide, the goals here are really to make it easier for contractors and your teams to intake and review and verify, and in some cases, our office to verify and help you guys get these in. Hopefully, that would also enable some more streamlined communication between our office, your teams, contractors, and ultimately, like I mentioned, feeding up into reporting at the system level. And like I mentioned, allowing us to really centrally track our progress on these goals and really figure out how we're accomplishing not only our climate goals, but also just our sustainable, design, healthy and safe facilities, and how these, different carbon intensity materials are informing, the ultimate form and design of the buildings that are going on our campuses. I will. Paul, I'll make sure to post the link, maybe to Jeremy in the if a message goes out after. I want to walk through a demo on the next slide before sharing that link out. I feel like we skipped a bullet. Can we go back for one moment?
Sure. Yep.
Thanks. So again, this is not like the only time you'll hear from me, unfortunately for you. We will have additional guidance and resources and trainings that are going to accompany this. As I've mentioned before, ByClean is just one of these sort of regulations we're tracking against here. And so we're trying to make sure that we're rolling out a holistic suite of solutions Perhaps we're going to get some third-party support on resources and tools that can help us. But for now, definitely plan for additional trainings and resources coming from our office. And of course, I'm always available via email or phone if folks have questions or need some additional support. As I've said, input, feedback, and any sort of volunteers to pilot or test out these solutions are eagerly encouraged. Thanks, Rajesh. I'd have to think about whether or not we want to include that in the general conditions, and that's obviously Jeremy, your guys' team. We'll think through that. The point today is to really sort of bounce this idea off you guys and let you see what it is that we're working on, and we'll continue to refine it and figure out, where is the best place for this to live and how to slot that into our project guidance. But Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong or if you want to add anything to that response.
No, I completely agree. So I would be not vague, but just directing to the fact that in our general conditions that this has to be done on everything, again, except for jock projects. And, in your pre-construction meetings, really start warming the contractor up as to this is what is going to happen. This is a responsibility of yours. This is something that will have to be done. So that would probably be the safest thing right now. As Hank was saying before, we started, Rachel's on the call. Rachel, you and I started this I don't know, 7 years ago. I'm not even kidding. I feel like I'm like in the Titanic where it's been 70 years since we've been it's been quite some time since we started this. It started with MetaBIM, and then DGS took over with their own reporting tool, which was challenging at best. Rachel, would you say that was?
That's a very diplomatic way of putting it.
Thank
Yes.
you. I do what I can.
Yeah.
And thankfully Hank has really wrapped his head around it. And Hank, do you want to pull up the reporting tool on your screen?
Yeah.
You want to share screen?
I will do my best to share screen.
Cool.
I gotta send a request your way.
You got it.
And while you're doing that, I mean, and Hank can sort of add more to this since he's a little bit closer, but the reporting guidance from the state has been evolving. So I think before we put anything in the sort of GCs that may or may not change, we want to wrap our arms around that and make sure that Smartsheet will work for our purposes, that we don't need to go to outside software developers, even though that is something that we're still sort of weighing. So it's a little bit of a moving target, and we appreciate your guys' patience with this.
Yeah, and really well said.
It does keep changing. The evolution of this is pretty wild. If you look at the training that Rachel and I set up, and not everything that we tried to do up until this point, but I feel that this smart sheet's going to capture it the best for us. And Hank, if you're ready to go.
Yeah, sure thing. And thanks for the additional context, guys.
Sure.
Hopefully you're seeing 2 panels here in my screen.
Yep.
Great. So on the left-hand side, we have what is actually an EPD. This is for fabricated hollow structural sections. I'll dive into that and sort of show you guys how we're envisioning the smart sheet would intake this data. And again, we're here to help both you and your contractors sort of walk through these materials. I think in the past, there's been a lot of issue around sort of how do I read this pretty technical document and how do I get, campuses and CPDC the information that they need. So on the right-hand side is the sort of demo platform in Smartsheet that I'm trying to test out here today. You'll see it's kind of just a simple instruction here. This is all a little bit of draft text, and hopefully we will have some step-by-step guides to help contractors and you sort of oversee the process of submitting through Smartsheet that I'll end up linking in here. And as well, a link to the latest buy clean information from DGS. The first thing that the smart sheet is asking us to do is just tell us what the project in question is. So I've set it up so that if we select, let's just say Bakersfield, because they're at the top. If we select Bakersfield, it should hopefully populate with the most up-to-date list of projects that are either ongoing or they may be closed out. But hopefully you're not having to, type in an unknown project to us, or maybe have an error in your type, and therefore we don't know which project we're actually talking about. And importantly, the way that this is currently built is we're going to be submitting one Smartsheet form for each material that's covered. So if I have, in this case, a set of hollow structural sections for the project, but I have steel plate that I also need to report on, we would be requiring 2 forms for that. So one for each product submittal. And that's why we want to make sure that these projects are closely aligned, or actually are the exact same, so we can assign the right materials and the right EPDs to each discrete project. I hope that makes sense, but let me know if not. So let's just say the new math and science building is the project in question. We would ask then the contractor to fill out, you can see my test suggestions here, their name, let's just say test McTesty, their email, test, and let's just say this is their phone number. And then we're asking them to also signpost to who their contact on campus is. Likely you, it might be in some cases like someone from your energy and sustainability team. It might be someone else on campus or another person who's responsible for coordinating submittals. Let's just say this is campus McTesty and campus@campus.edu. So just basic contact information and project information to start, and then getting into sort of the more wonky elements that really I've seen has produced some errors and some confusion and back and forth that we're trying to solve for with the Smartsheet solution. So the first thing that we're asking for is the material category in question. So like I've been saying over and over again, this is hollow structural steel. And we've got some definitions here for what the state law defines as fabricated versus unfabricated. We've actually had some back and forth about that, but we have some help text built in here to help sort of walk through what it is that would help you differentiate between those. In this case, we kind of know that we're talking about fabricated hollow structural steel. So those are, the pieces of steel that are actually, bent or cut to be used in the final construction of the project. If there is an exemption that you're requesting from this particular statute, you would just check this box. And to be quite honest with you, there are, a number of exemptions that would be totally reasonable to select from, but we would review those with you to make sure that they apply. It's, if procuring this lower carbon intensity material would be technically infeasible, would result in a significant cost or delay, or if, it results in a non-competitive procurement, or if there's obviously just a sort of emergency as defined by the public contracting code, we would want to just check whichever box, and then we would review that with you before you actually proceed with installing whatever material you ended up with. But let's assume we're not exempting this, and we're actually filling this out with the EPD that I have on the left-hand side. So first, we need to know what unit of measurement are we using for this particular set of steel. In this case, let's just say we're procuring 50 tons of this steel to install on the project. And then material description is actually where we're going to start. Let's just say this is hollow steel. And we're going to start moving into the EPD to extract the information. And again, this is something that we're hoping the contractor will be able to do for us and be able to use this Smartsheet form to provide the data. And then our office will help review and work directly with the contractor and your teams as needed to get the information correct. The material manufacturer name, as we can see, this is Atlas Tube Steel. So we're just going to fill this out as Atlas Tube. And material manufacturing location. So we're actually not allowed per the statute to just have a general EPD. The EPD needs to be assigned to the exact facility that's producing the steel that we procure, which can be difficult in some cases, I understand, but it is something that the EPD should be able to help us unpack. So in this case, we are going to say that we procured this from a plant in Plymouth, Missouri, which the contractor should be able to track. And then we're going to look at the EPD to find the rest of the data that we need to input. We've got the actual number, the ID number for this EPD is located here, and we'll copy that over. I think I did that before, or let's just assume it's this, it's close enough. And then the issue date of this EPD is March 3rd or March 22nd, 2022. And based on this period of validity on the EPD, we know it expires 5 years from that date, which would be March 22nd, 2027. And importantly, all of the EPDs required by law have to have a period of validity within that 5-year window. So we have to be in this window for this EPD and this material to be validly installed on our projects. And this is the hardest part. I will not lie, is actually finding that global warming potential number. So actually finding that part of the nutrition label on the CPD that we need to fill in. So if we scroll through all of this really, I'll just say kind of wonky text, we'll get to a place where it is going to report what that global warming potential limit is for the product. And you're going to see a number of tables, or your contractor will see a number of tables, and it'll be really easy to maybe mistakenly select a number. You'll also notice it's all in scientific notation. I am not a scientist, so I don't have the easiest time reading these myself. But really, we're going to help, and hopefully the Smart Sheet solution and our trainings and resources will help guide us to the correct number more quickly and cut down on back and forth and hopefully get people on their merry way. So we're actually not taking this GWP number from the first table we find. We need to find what the GWP, the global warming potential, is for the specific material from the specific facility we procured it from. And that's where we come down to this table, table 5 in this document, where it's the facility specific GWP 100 results per 1 metric ton of fabricated steel. And we found the plant that we know we procured it from. And so here we have the total sort of carbon intensity here of that material from that specific plant based on scientific notation. That's 1,810 per metric ton. And they're almost always measured in per metric ton, which is fine that it's different than the actual unit we procured the material in. Smartsheet on the back end is doing some work to kind of convert those two numbers and make it easy to understand for everybody who's verifying this. I've also put in here just sort of an auto-populated limit. So this is actually the limit on global warming potential we could install for this steel on our project. And you'll see, obviously, this number is lower than the limit, so we're good to go. And then we would simply upload this actual PDF here so we can verify the document and make sure that it is, in fact, aligning with the numbers and data that's been input. And then we would send you on your merry way, and the materials could go into the project, and we would be in compliance, and we would be doing a much better job of tracking sort of our progress against our goals. That was a lot of information pretty quickly, but I'm optimistic that some of this seems a little easier than the previous forms, and I'd be very eager to hear any feedback or initial thoughts based on that short demo.
So Hank, thank you so much for this. I appreciate you bringing. It's still a work in progress right now. This is something that we brought to the CMAG group for your input. Would this work for your projects on your campuses? Would this work? Is there a better idea that you guys might have? I think, Rachel, you and I went back and forth with this quite a bit. And is it the contractor's responsibility or is it the campus's responsibility? Because a lot of times I know on campus, even here at the chancellor's office, when we're doing projects, there's a lot of paperwork. And, this isn't, as I'm trying to process certified payrolls and reviewing submittals and doing so much, what's the best approach, or what do you guys think would be the best approach at inputting this data on your campus? So that's actually a rhetorical question too, but what do some of the campuses think about this? Yeah, I'll love it. That's what that means.
I'm just kind of, my mind is going to, they're going to fill out the existing form and hand it to our campus to fill in. That's where my mind's going.
Yeah, agreed.
Thanks, Michelle. I hope that, again, I want to be very clear that I'm carving out time and effort here to support on that as well. So especially as we kind of continue to bring up the adoption here, that, we're going to make sure that people sort of get the ropes, so to speak. And hopefully then these processes would not be as cumbersome and easy to offload onto your plate. But definitely point well taken.
And I'm thinking that's probably why the comment about putting it in the CGCs was accurate, because we give them contract phase forms in their contract. Mm-hmm. And if the form was there, but not the smart sheet, that may be a point where they would say it wasn't in my contract to do it. So usually when we create something new, we kind of have to follow through at all the points it's usually talked about.
And that's, Michelle, you bring up a good point. We would have to go back to and review the general conditions, because I think, Rachel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we had something about entering into a database, and we may want to I thought we did at one point, and we can revisit this, but
Yeah, I thought it was mainly the form. That was the point too. But yeah, we can double check that because I think
yeah,
we tried to do belt and suspenders between like the GCs and D1 and whatever else.
yeah.
But yeah.
But making it easy, Michelle, is what we need to do, because we really need the data in. A question, I don't know if any campus wants to ask this, but is there an exemption, and how would that work, or does it have to be the GWP?
So as I referenced in the smart sheet, there are a number of qualifying exemptions. They just need to be documented and approved by our office, sort of prior to
Yeah.
actually going ahead with those materials. And again, it's my understanding, outside of this sort of sphere, is that it's not too difficult to find these materials or their EPDs, and we'll include some sort of like free resources that can help locate the EPDs if that's any sort of issue.
That's what we did before. Yep.
But so things like a significant cost or project delay, if theoretically, to my understanding, shouldn't really come up from trying to find these materials.
Okay.
But if they do, then that is obviously a valid exemption. So things like
Perfect.
cost and delays, it just being
You went exactly where I wanted to go. Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it's not my intention, nor do I think the state's to actually increase our project costs at all. We want to make sure that we're building and renovating our facilities, but this is something that they've intentionally designed to be pretty feasible to comply with.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Hank. Any additional questions for Hank and Rachel on this topic? VPDs are more to come. They'll be rolling out a robust training session, I'm sure, coming up soon, and more shall be revealed later. So.
That's true. This, like I said, this won't be the last you see of me. If there are folks who are, eager to share, I know what limited time you guys have, but if there is anybody who's willing to share their time to help test things out or share feedback offline, please don't hesitate. I'll throw my email and phone number in the chat. But thanks for having me, Jeremy, and please don't be shy, folks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hank. Thank you, Rachel. And now to Andrea with the PMCM MEA highlights.
I know we've been talking about this for quite a while, and we are almost across the finish line with this. So I just wanted to stop in today, give you guys a few highlights of it. I'm currently working with our website specialists in our office who are working to get everything up on our website, but I just dropped a link to a smart sheet in the chat where you can find all of the vendors who will have contracts. Almost all of them are executed at this point. There's a few more that we're waiting for OGC to sign off on, which it looks like 3 of those have come across like during this meeting. So that means there's just one more that we need to get signed off, and hopefully we'll get those all up for you. But we still want you to be able to use these in the meantime and before they get up on the website, which is why I dropped that link in the smart sheet link in the chat. On there, you'll find the attachments you need, so the executed agreements, the Word doc for the service order. So these are free for you to use at this time. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a few highlights about how we structured these MEAs. They were designed to be as flexible as possible for you guys to use. Service orders can be lump sum or hourly, not to exceed, and I'll go into how we figured in the cost in a minute. And then it can be used for staff augmentation or for finite deliverables if you have more discrete services that you need, like if you're going to be hiring like a project manager to cover a specific project and you have more discrete tasks that you want them to do other than just like a more general staff augmentation positions. And the rates for this initial period will all remain constant through the end of 2029. At that point, we'll have a opportunity to update the rates with our providers, and that'll go for another 3 years after that. So these contracts essentially will remain in place for 7 years, and there are 16 providers on that list. So quite a lot for you guys to choose from. Most of those names, a lot of you will recognize they're already providers that you are currently working with. We wanted to do that in order to lessen the burden or administrative burden on you guys for having to resolicit and re-sign up contracts for those providers that you use over and over and over again. And this will allow you to authorize them to do work on a service order only instead of having to redo their service agreements every single time. And then one thing I wanted to note about the rates is that they include travel within 50-mile radius of your campus if the provider is within that area. They won't be able to charge for travel. Next slide. So one of the things that we did differently on this service model that I wanted to draw your attention to is this Exhibit B. And one thing we've noticed is that anyone's title can be whatever they want it to be and mean whatever they want it to mean. So one thing we wanted to do is sort of level set that across all of the service providers. So we gave little definitions here of what we thought would be good experience levels, what sort of education and certifications we wanted them to have, different skill sets they wanted to have, so that we can actually look across the different service providers and see like where their rates fall in line with other ones for the same level of qualifications. And also we've had issues in the past with people selling us project managers who are people who are maybe just out of school with not a lot of experience. So we really wanted to define what that means. And the titles are neither here nor there. It's just a way for us to be able to say, okay, this is sort of our expectation, and explain to the service providers what our expectations are when we are procuring a certain type of position. Next. And we will be putting together a short training to go over this, to go into more detail about how to use these contracts if you want to attend that. But in the meantime, I wanted to point you to this section within the RFP. It's within each contract, it's Exhibit C, and it's the RFQ RFP. And it really just outlines what the agreement model is all about. So if you want to go ahead and use these now before we have that training ready to go, this is the section that I think you guys really need to pay attention to, that really talks about what you can and can't do with it, what the obligations are of the campus, what the obligations are of the service provider. And I think another thing to note is we didn't ask for them to provide us resumes at the time we did the solicitation, because it's such a long duration of a contract. You never know who's going to be available at what time. So part of the solicitation for getting someone signed up is asking them to submit resumes to you guys. And we want them to be able to provide you with different client or owner references at the time that they're soliciting resumes to you. And us in the chancellor's office, we've actually already executed a service order against one of these agreements. So when I do my training, we'll give you examples of what we did to solicit various resumes from these different service providers, what documents we put together, and just show you some examples and the best ways to use it, or just talk about what would be best practices. Jeremy, can you think of anything else that we maybe want to highlight?
No, that's great. Great job on this. Guys, Andrea spearheaded the whole PMCM MEA contracts, and we already are using one of the consultants here at the Chancellor's office. There's some great companies to choose from. Hopefully that you guys can use these PMCMs at your campuses. But Andrea, great work on this, and it'll be of great use.
Yeah, as you know, we love using Smartsheets too. So if there's already a service provider you want to use, you can just go straight to them, ask for a resume. But if you have a big project coming up and you don't know who's going to have the best people available at what time, what we did in the chancellor's office is we basically sent out a Smartsheet form to all of the service providers who had executed agreements and said, hey, submit your resumes. And we told them what we were looking for and what our project was like. And we got a bunch of different resumes from different.
We did. And we were able to really dial in exactly what we needed here at the chancellor's office. And it's, you really got to see a a nice sample of what's out there. And there's a lot of good consultants out there that have a lot of good bodies that can be on campus helping you guys. So
yeah, we try to get a lot of service providers just because it's a long duration. The campus needs vary from all types of different needs and different locations. Oh,
scheduling,
one other
cost
thing I
estimating.
wanted to note is that part of the agreement says that any remote services that are required to be provided to any campuses, but in-person services, if those are required, the service provider got to elect which campuses that they are willing to work in person full time at. So this smart sheet, you'll be able to like filter by campus. You can filter by service type, because not all of the service providers wanted to provide all the service types. Sure. So you can use the smart sheet to filter and find exactly what you're looking for.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Andrea. Any questions for Andrea regarding the new PMCM MEAs? See, you did such a great job, Andrea. No questions. Good job. So welcome to the Connection Corner. I know that you guys have all been waiting for Kevin's Connection Corner, but he's busy today. So welcome to Connection Corner. We don't have any topics. Does anybody have any topics that they'd like to throw out? Maybe we could do something new. I will, while we're filling time, I am on the jock note for job order contracting. We are releasing an RFP for jock general contracts, and for the southern campuses, the northern campuses, and for Humboldt. Those should be coming out next week. And surprise, surprise, we're bringing back immediate response. So for those emergency type projects that don't exceed the minor cap limit, we will be doing a immediate response jock for 26-27. So keep an eye out for that. That should be out in the next couple of weeks as well. But I'm not seeing any big questions out there. Oh, Kim's got a question. Let's go, Kim. What do you got? Unmute yourself. Let's go.
I have a really bizarre one.
Okay, what do you got?
So we just had an audit on one of our projects, and situation came up where we had an escrow. And of course, everybody that was on the project is no longer here. Naturally. Everybody.
Yeah.
And so tracking down information was a little challenging. Here is where I'm just wondering, I would like some advice on how to address something of this. And that's, we had the escrow for $2.3 million. But and we submitted all the paperwork and everything to the state treasurer office, right? The STO.
Yep.
The paperwork was for $575,000, not for the 2.3. And when I inquired with the STO, they didn't even have any documentation that for the why it changed. And so how would how without not having access to all those communications, between, yes, I believe it was a release of retention. It was retention in the end.
Sure.
But the original request was for 2.3. And so trying to navigate that detail with, in an audit is quite challenging. So I guess I'm just like wanting to know, has anyone had this situation before? And why would it be so significantly different?
Kim, did your budget go down over time at all? Because I know when you're doing the application, it might be when you haven't really fully decided on the dollar amount.
Okay, so then it was that piece right there. So it was the initial, I don't know what percentage it could have been for the project. It was a pretty large project. Then we have to just know that it was possibly for the release or the partial release, and not for a certain percentage.
So what was the delivery method? Do you know?
The delivery method.
Or what kind of contract was it? Was it like
Oh, it was I believe it was a design build
Hey
major.
Kim, it's Amanda. It was a collaborative design build.
Oh,
yeah,
thank you.
so maybe it was phase 1. Maybe the escrow got split up from phase 1 to phase 2, because remember, on the collaborative design build, it's 2 separate things, and Andrea can jump in too if she wants to. But does that
Okay.
sound possible that maybe they did escrow for phase 1 and not for phase 2? That it
Okay.
got split up somehow. That's just a guess, but you know what I'm going to ask you to do? I'm going to ask you to put it in writing and email Kevin, myself, and Andrea, and we can cook on a little bit and get you a response. But that's
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
push the contractor to get you those original documents, because a lot of that documentation
the contractor.
yes, they submit all that to the state treasurer.
yeah,
So
Okay.
it should be there.
you should get the original
Yeah.
documentation from them.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of surprised when I checked with the state treasurer office that they didn't have any documentation on it on the
Yeah,
change. So that I thought was really weird.
that is pretty
Okay.
weird.
All right. Thanks for letting me share my weird one.
No, that's definitely that's one I haven't heard before. You know, eh, when I've been with other government agencies, escrow is a very popular thing. Not very popular here at CSU. Few and far between, and I'm sure there's something about it. Again, I think it sounds like a phase 1, phase 2 type issue. But
Okay.
yeah, talk to your contractor, email us. We can help you with that too. So
Okay. Thanks.
cool. You're welcome. Okay, that was a pretty good one, Kim. Thank you. Are there any other topics or questions that we can help you with? Okay.
Oh, one more thing
Oh,
to add on my contracts. All the vendors have been set up in CSU by, and on the smart sheet, you'll find the vendor ID. Not all of them may be added to your campus yet, so that's just one step you might need to take for the procurement folks out there, is getting them added to your campus in CSU by.
perfect. Good call. Thanks, Andrea.
I've got one thing, Jeremy, if you don't mind.
Sure, Edward, shoot.
So believe it or not, the CSU has a unofficial no-fly list for general contractors, designers, subs. So it would be awesome if folks on the campus side who are looking to do procurement, or you know, you're gearing up to go out for new projects, check in, just ask us. We can't put it in writing, can't give it to you in an email, but we can just have a quick touch base over the phone and let you know who is on the naughty list, if you will. That way, you are avoiding some things that have happened to others within the system, because realistically, we are not obligated to repeat our mistakes with contractors who are not coming through with the way things should be. And quite frankly, for the size and scale, we are the nation's largest collegiate university public organization, and we should only be getting the A team every which way all the time. Matt, I see your hand up. I want to high five you, Matt, with that hand up.
Matt, what do you got, buddy?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just had another topic to talk about really fast. I don't know if this is for next month, but it would be good to know, like, now that OFS is starting to come out and shadow the state fire marshal on inspections, kind of what their authority is. And if there's, God forbid, a disagreement in the field between the state fire marshal and OFS, which I don't think will be, but just kind of like, you know, I haven't seen at least any documentation on from, other than from our local officer, what kind of what their jurisdiction is now, what their authority is. So it'd be good to know.
I can say
Cool.
from OFS at least that this is something that we are aware of. So thanks for bringing it to our attention, but it's very, very kind of new and ongoing. So we are working it out. It is a discussion that we're having, and we'll work on making more communications to have that more clear as we get it. But as of now, it is something that everyone's talking about it. So that might be why it's just a little bit of a lag so far. We're still working on getting it out because we ourselves are still trying to clear it all up.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Atuza. And maybe we can get check Travis's availability to join our next CMAG connection session, which then takes me to our next slide. Ooh, project spotlights. We're still looking for project spotlights. So if you've got a project you'd like to highlight on your campus, let myself, Andrea, or Kevin know. We would love to get your campus in the spotlight. Training opportunities coming up. So we do have a Construction Services Department 101 coming up on March 19th at 9 a.m. I think everybody should, there's a registration link out there. If you don't have one, let me know. I can send it to you. It's updated to all the new current, current statute and things that we've changed. So please consider attending on March 19th at 9 a.m. And Andrew's going to tell you about Law of Design and Construction coming up.
Yeah, so those of you who are new, I would highly recommend that you guys try and come to Law of Design and Construction. These are in-person trainings only, but the Office of the Chancellor one will be recorded and put onto SumTotal/CSU Learn, whatever that site is called now. But yes, these are great in-person trainings where we are collaborating with Office of General Counsel to go over the red binder, if you know what that is. So the first day is all the topics in the red binder, and the second day is more advanced topics that are made up of panels of people from the Chancellor's office and campus folks to go over real-life examples of how topics in the day one training are applied in real life or expansion of information that's learned on the day one training. So would love to see you all there. And we've made one in the north and one in the south. So hopefully nobody has to travel too far. Hopefully some of you will be able to drive and won't have to stay overnight at any of those places. But trying to be mindful of travel restrictions during this time when there is tight on budget. But would love to see you all there.
Very much so, yes.